So the topic is male and female, he created them. So in this case, you are coming from a biblical perspective of the fact that God created us as human beings, men and women. If you look into the Bible, the book of Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, which reads, "So God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them." This is where the whole thing for today's gender conference was taken from. Male and female, he created them. If you read the King James Version, it says God created man. But the man used there is human being, because the Bible went on further to say what? Male and female, he created man as humanity, human beings. And God granted man, which is male and female, dominion over all his creation. So we want to see a few things. So what is man? Have you ever asked yourself that question? What is man? David asked the same question. He says, what is man that God cares so much and cherishes so much? What is man? As a man, in this case, we are defining man. So when you hear man generally, I'm talking about male and what? Female. So what is man? Is man from the top to beast? Or is man from beast to God? I don't know if you get where I'm coming from. Is man a creature that has fallen, or that is falling from the top and becoming more and more and more like animal as the day passes? Or is man a beast or an animal that is becoming more and more and more like God? I don't know if you get where I'm coming from. What is man? Evolution will tell you that what man started from what as monkeys or as apes. That's not the main evolution theory according to Darwin. But from what atheists want to believe, man was an animal, and as the years and the generations are passing, as years are passing, centuries are passing, millennials are passing, man is becoming more like God. He's becoming he's improving. But the Bible tells us in the book of Genesis that man was in the glory of God. Then something happened in the Garden of Eden that man fell. And man lost a particular glory that man, through Jesus Christ, is trying to establish. What are we taking? Are we taking the part of evolution that we are believing that maybe the next 2,000 years, maybe we would have some superhuman powers to become more than we are currently? Or we are taking the path where we realize that as the generations are passing, sin is abounding and man is behaving more and more like animal. Until man finds God or his purpose in God, he is brutal. Let's go on. So there was this story of that people used to make joke or make a pass at the people who talk about evolution or believers in evolution, that there was a monkey in the zoo who stood in his cage and was just thinking and saying, "Am I my keeper's brother?" I don't know if you get it. As in, I don't have to explain it. And there was this scientist who was a surgeon, who was a very, very well-known surgeon, who came to a conclusion that he has divided a human body, he has looked into the human body, anatomy, physiology, and everything, and he hasn't found any soul in man. What is soul? Do we see soul? What does it look like? So all this I'm coming from is the same question that we're asking ourselves. What is man? The Bible tells us that God created man as a living soul. That is, man has life in him. That's God breathes life into man, just like God gave the animals life such that they can move and up and down and do things. God gave man life to live. Have you ever seen life before? Have you ever seen music before? So just like in the same way that we have an organ or a trumpet and you play the music, the organ in itself or the trumpet in itself, it's an object. While you play and you find music in it, soul is a soul to man. It's not a graspable concept as far as man is concerned. In the book of Genesis, God established relationships, and the reason for creation of man was because of relationship. God wanted to relate to man. That's why I realized that God, throughout the Bible, was trying to relate. My people, my children, my wife. And the book of Genesis chapter 1 talks about a kind of horizontal, a vertical relationship between God and man. As in, God was up. If you read the book of Genesis, you realize that chapter 1 was as if God was looking down on man and talking. He was looking down on the earth and giving a speech. And God created this on the first day, on the second day, God did that, on the third day, God did that. When we read the chapter 2, we realize that it's more about as if man was looking up to God. Okay, when we get there, you understand where I'm coming from. But there's a relationship there's a relationship between God, how God sees us as people. When God is up and is looking at us as man and woman, He doesn't see any difference between us. He says what? Man. He says God created man. And He created man as what? Male and female. But when we are looking at an horizontal relationship between men and women, as far as God is concerned, man, which is humanity, male and female, are equal in their dignity, in their value to Him, in their essence. They are man. This is God's creation. But in every society, God believes or establishes leadership. Because like I always like to say, there's nothing like a democracy of two people. Is it possible to have a democracy of two people? I don't know if you get where I'm coming from. Let's say that we are in Ghana and we have only two people in Ghana, and we are going to do an election and we have NDC and NPP. Is that a possibility if one person is in NDC and the second person is in NPP for us to establish a government in this country? So God in His own wisdom said, okay, the vertical relationship that I see humanity as is that I created them as man, which is humanity or human beings, and I created them as male and female. And to me, I see them as equal in dignity, in value, in honor, in everything. But I'm going to create them different. I'm going to create them different physically, different psychologically, different socially, and different in many ways. But their differences are to complement each other such that they become a fit. But just like there is hierarchy in anything, if you go to heaven, there's hierarchy. We have the four beasts. They are heavenly creatures, the seraphims, and they have their order. The archangels before you come down to angels. In the same way, when God created man, He established some kind of leadership. That's why He says Christ is the head of man and man is the head of woman. That doesn't mean that man is better than woman, but God always creates a kind of hierarchy because He believes in the principle of leadership. What is man? Man is a mixture of heaven and earth. When you read the book of Genesis chapter 1, the Bible tells us that God created man in His own image. Wow. That means we are created in the image of God. It's a wonderful thing for us to hear. That God created us. God Himself made us in His image. Does that make us God? Or make us supernatural beings that we can fly, we can disappear from this place to that side? But when we look at Genesis chapter 2, it went on further to tell us that what? God created man from the dust of the earth. So man is a mixture of heaven and earth. There's something godly or about God in man, and there's something earthly or dust, just material, about the nature of man. That is why, because man has an essence or a spirit in him, and God has breathed in man, there's no way man can be satisfied with only earthly things. There's always an emptiness in the soul of man which has to be satisfied by something which is supernatural. Because man is a mixture of heaven and earth. Unlike the animals or any other of the other creation of God. That's why when it came to the creation of man, God said, let us create man. God started speaking to himself. That's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And it was an important concept to God. Man. What is man that God is so mindful of? But then we realize that man and woman are male and female. They are sexual beings. Because as soon as we start talking about male and female, we're talking about sexuality. So, is anything wrong with sexuality? It's God who created us as male and female. It wasn't man, or it isn't maybe after God created us, then we said that we want to be male and female. God created man in his image, and the Bible went on to emphasize. It says, so God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, God created them. Male and female, he created them. So it's important to God. And I want you to realize something. If you have a Bible here, you realize that in the whole of Genesis chapter 1, chapter 1 and chapter 2, the Bible uses poetry 2 times. The first poetry that was used in the Bible was Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, where God said, male and female, he created them. I don't know if you understand if I say poetry. If you have a Bible that differentiates prose or common literature from poetry, you realize it. For instance, this Bible I'm quoting here, most Bibles are like that anyway. You realize that when it gets here, the writing is not straight. You see, all the other parts are prose. They are straight language, speaking from the mind. A straight mind thing. So, you see, then God said, let the waters swarm with fish and other life. Let the skies be filled with... It's like you're speaking your mind. That is prose. You realize that it starts from the beginning, ends there, and all of them are in line. But when it comes to chapter 1, verse 27, the first line and the second line and the third line, they all are in different... They go like in and out. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. That is poetry in the Bible. Wherever you see that. That's why we read the book of Psalm or Proverbs or the poetic books in the Bible. Almost everything there is written in that form. So poetry is language of the heart. When somebody is saying I'm speaking poetry, I don't know if you've written a love letter before. How many of us have written love letters before? Phineas. Okay. You are writing from you're not writing from your mind, you're writing directly from your emotion, from your heart. So when God was saying male and female he created them, it was something that God was really emotional about. Look at Genesis chapter 2, verse 23. When man saw woman for the first time, he spoke poetry again. If you have your Bible here, you can look at Genesis chapter 2, verse. That's the second poetry in the Bible. So here, he says, wow, this is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. It was in a poetic way that he was speaking. So we realize that this again is about sexuality, poetry. So when God was speaking about man or concerning man, and he was saying male and female, God was speaking from the depths because sexuality is very important to God. God didn't create us male and female by mistake. And that's why sexuality is very, very important to the healthy man or the healthy woman. Sexuality is important to you. What do I mean by that? As sexual beings, some of our most painful moments are when it comes to sexuality between male and females. And you go through a very, very deep moment of you want to die. You feel it so. It's one of the things. Sexuality is one of the things that can send you to A certain depth that almost nothing on earth can send you to. And it's one of the things that can send you to a certain height of ecstasy that almost nothing on earth can send you to. And sexuality is a great driving force. We will do almost anything because of sexuality. It motivates us. It's what can motivate a young man who is earning 500 cedis a month to take 300 cedis and go and spread a girl. Meanwhile, his mother is at home and he's not paid light bills. That's the strength or the power of sexuality. See, there's nothing wrong with sexuality. It's a very, very important concept as far as male and female are concerned. But I want us to remember once again that human beings were created in the image of God. And when God created man, He created man to have different kind of relationships. The first kind of relationship, as we can see in Genesis chapter 2, verse 15 to 17, is a relationship above. That is our relationship with God. For us to become balanced, we have to have that part of our relationship handled. That's our relationship above. And that relationship above is a relationship of obedience. I don't know if you get where I'm coming from. So our relationship with God is a relationship of obedience. Let's go to chapter 2, verse 15. It says, the Lord God placed a man in the Garden of Eden to tend and watch over it. But the Lord God warned him, that God was giving him an instruction to obey. You may freely eat the fruit of every tree in the garden, except the tree of knowledge of good and evil. If you eat its fruit, you are sure to die. Do you understand? So God gave man an instruction of obedience. And obedience in this way is in two directions. One, for man to be loyal to God. God is giving man a condition of loyalty. And secondly, for man to labor. So God first of all gave man an instruction of labor. That is for man to do what? To tend and watch over everything in the garden. So we have given the instruction to labor or work. So work is not a concept that maybe somebody wants to worry you. It's something that is in the nature of man to work. Then God also gave man the instruction not just to labor, but to do what? To be loyal to Him. Those are the two ways that God expects a certain absolute kind of obedience from man. But God didn't just give man a relationship between himself and man, but also a relationship below, as in not above us, but creations or creations below us. God gave man that instruction in chapter 2, verse 19 and 20, that God says, I've given the animals to you, name them, rule over them, and have dominion over them. Then thirdly, God gave man a relationship that is beside him, that is woman or our fellow humans that we deal with. And it's a relationship of companionship. And as a man or a human being, if I'm talking about man in this case, I'm talking about what? Male and female. He created them. We have to be able to establish all these three levels of relationship. If one of them is not in full order, our life is never balanced. It's a very, very important concept as far as our relationship that God. So the whole creation of man was about relationship. God wanted to love man, and God wanted man to love him. That's why when we don't love God, it's very painful to him. It's about relationship. He had a only begotten son, Jesus Christ, from the beginning, and he was enjoying the relationship with Jesus. He says, why don't I create more people so I can have more relationships and love them, and they too to love me? And here we are today. Are we loving God? And that's why God regretted creating man in the book of Genesis. Because he realized that what he created man for, that relationship that he wanted with man, man was not ready for that. And man was doing his own thing. So what's God's order? Okay, we'll come to this one later. But something happened. God created man in his image, and God had a perfect plan and idea for man. So where did it go wrong? I know we all know, I think one of the most popular stories in the Bible is the story of creation. It's the story of Adam and Eve, and especially the fall of Adam and Eve. even a person who's an atheist, a person who doesn't even go to church, knows that there was someone called Adam and Eve, and they ate a fruit, and we say it's an apple. I don't know where the apple came from. And because of that, they fell, they disobeyed God, and because of that, since then, man has lost his place. So, because of that fall, that disobedience, there was a curse that was placed on humanity. God cursed humanity. And that curse is what we are, the effects of the curse is what we are seeing in our today's life. That curse was so powerful that man, who was supposed to now have dominion over the creations of the earth, now the creation of the because of that disobedience, everything has turned upside down, and the creature, even mosquitoes are chasing us. We don't let us sleep at night. That the creature that was supposed to be under man has now turned against man. And the creations of God from time to time turn against man. There are tsunamis, there are tornadoes, all manner of things because of that curse. And this same curse wasn't just a curse that affected these kind of things, that's childbirth or pain in women. Man has to sweat before making money, or he has to work in labor, and by the sweat of his brows to be able to get something. But it also affected the relationship between man and woman. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. So, when you read the book of Genesis, chapter 2, verses. Okay, Genesis chapter 2, verses. Chapter 3, verses 16 to 19 there. You realize that God placed a number of curses upon man because of that disobedience. And what was that curse? The first curse went to the serpent. So God cursed. God is a very righteous judge. He's just perfect. He cursed according to starting from the serpent, who was the instigator of the whole thing. Then he went to the woman who went to take it first, before coming down to the man. So we are talking. Let's look at the curse that God placed. He says, "I will sharpen the pain of your pregnancy, and in pain you will give birth, and you will desire to control your husband." Another version will say that. Look at another version. It says to the woman, "I will make your pains in childbearing very severe. With painful labor, you will give birth to children. Your desire will be for your husband." But I want to explain something to you. The word desire there, in the language it was translated from, is a word that's in the Hebrew. It's a word teshuka, which means a desire to control, not a desire or a longing for. That's the meaning of that word there. So when God told the woman that God was cursing man and woman, he wasn't blessing anybody. He wasn't trying to give anybody fans. If God's desire was trying to tell man that woman that your desire will be for your husband, that means wow. Then God is blessing man after disobeying. Then it's just like you go to court and you are being punished, and the judge is saying that then every month you receive something. Like no, that God was cursing man, and that particular curse there was a curse to break the relationship between man and woman. That's harmony. And since then, relationships have become very, very difficult, and marriages even more. Since then, the desire for the woman to seek control, she wants her way, and the man does what? Wants to rule and dominate the woman. That is the natural man and the natural woman in their pure state. The man wants, I'm the man of the house. Me can't say man. You see, again, that's the typical male nature. And a typical woman will also show you. She wants to control you. That was the case. It was a disharmony that God caused between the relationship between man and woman. He wasn't saying that the woman would love the man so much, and then God was essentially not cursing anybody. He was blessing. And the curse is the situation that we have now as far as relationship between men and women are concerned and marriage. Let me give you another proof. James chapter 4 verse 6 says something. It says, "Then the Lord said to Cain, Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, eager to control you. But what? You must rule over it. Let's look at the last statement there. It says, "For sin desires to have you." The word there was used was teshuka. But you must control it. Let's look at the last part of the Genesis chapter 3, verse 16. You realize that there's a certain scheme there. It says, "Your desire will be for your husband and he will rule over you." That's the same language that was used there. So sin was eager to control Cain. It was coming on Cain. But God was saying, "Cain, control it, rule over it." That was the same, it was the same way that it was spoken. That desire there is not a desire to long after. I'm not saying that men don't long after women or women don't long after men. It's there. But I'm saying that that desire there is teshuka, and it's a desire to control and a desire to dominate. A battle. The natural man and the natural woman enter a relationship which is a battleship. And until they are able to handle that particular aspect, but it's not something, it's there. It's the natural man and the natural woman. So God's ideal relationship is a relationship of leadership of a man, not a dominating leadership, but a loving leadership from the man and a willing submission from the woman. If the man has a loving, considerate leadership towards the man, such that the man has Christ as his head, then there's no problem in the house. Because if the relationship or the leadership of the man is a loving, considerate leadership, then the woman will not have a problem submitting. That's why the Bible says that husbands should love their wives like Christ loved the church. So the leadership that God gave into the hands of man, in terms of man's relationship with woman, that kind of authority or leadership role that God gave is not a leadership role that the husband should dominate and abuse, but it's a loving leadership. It was God's own order. Okay, so let's look at the natural man or the natural human being. If you read the whole of the Bible, realize that this concept comes up again and again and again. The natural man. Paul especially uses a lot in his letters. The natural man. The natural man is this. The natural man is that. And there's nothing good that has ever been said about a natural man before. Can you recall anything good that has been said about a natural man before? In the Bible. The natural man is vile. The natural man is brutal. The natural man is selfish. The natural man is envious. The natural man is vain. That's the natural man. What makes a knife different from a comb? First and foremost, I want to ask you, what makes a knife a knife? Okay, so a knife has to have a sharp edge. So if you see something, so this is a knife, that means you have something, it's defined by its function or something about it that makes it a knife. Are you getting where I'm coming from? So a knife has something, a characteristic that makes it a knife. And what will make a knife more of a knife than another knife? By its sharpness. So you think, this knife is a better knife than this other knife. This is more of a knife than this knife. Because of its sharpness. It has the ideal characteristic and function of a knife. So what makes a knife different from a comb? When you have a comb in this hand and you're playing with it, you're throwing it like this and you're catching, you don't care. You can even look up, you can look back. Because if a comb hits you, it will not catch you. But if you start playing with a knife the same way, you have to be careful. If you don't catch the right place, it's not going to be funny. So there's a difference in the nature of a knife and the nature of a comb. They have their nature. The dog and the bone. There's something about the dog that pulls it to the bone. It's in the nature, in the instinct of the dog. That nobody told the dog that this is a bone. And when you come on it, no, the dog just knows. A newborn, a dog that was just brought from somewhere, it was taken from its mother from birth. When they bring it to a new house, it's going to see the bone and it's attracted or pulled towards the bone. I don't know if you get where I'm coming from. There's something in the nature also of humanity Or let's look at a lion in its prey. Maybe a lion sees an antelope. What has the antelope done to a lion? But the lion is going to chase after the antelope. It is in its nature. I cannot blame the lion for chasing after the antelope. It is in its nature. And where did that start from? If you look at the beginning, God didn't even allow men to touch animals. Right after the fall, all that thing started. It was after the fall, because God says God gave the plants to man. Says, these are your food, eat them. Then after the fall, everything changed. Brutal. Survival of the fittest. So there's something that has changed in the whole modus operandi of man, the natural man, the natural woman. And all this is coming from what? The curse. So the lion sees his prey, and I cannot blame the lion. There's something the lion that wants to catch his prey. There are traits that are inherent in human beings in general. The natural man is shameful. We are very, very, very envious. All of us. I'm talking about the natural man. Are you the natural man? We are supposed to be spiritual men. Are we not? The Bible describes the natural man, talks about a carnal man, and the spiritual. So, if you find yourself and you're a Christian, and you are still struggling with envy, you are not a spiritual Christian, you're a carnal Christian. Do you understand? That's what the Bible means when you talk about carnal. It means that somebody whose spirit has been redeemed, but is not working on his soul. When you are born again, what happens is that something happens to your spirit. You've changed from a goat to a sheep. It has happened. There's no turning back. You will say later, you say you're an atheist. You are just a backslider. If you are really born again, no, you are just backsliding. You're not an atheist. Something, if you are really born again and just something, if you came to really accept Christ, something happens to you. It's a permanent thing. And your spirit is saved. But then, what about your soul? Your thoughts, the way you think, the way you talk, the way you dress, your concepts, your beliefs, your philosophies in life, what about them? Be transformed by what? The renewal of your mind. Your soul has to change before you qualify. Because if Jesus Christ comes and your soul, your character has not changed, He's not taking you. You're a carnal Christian. Something has to happen to a man for a man to move from just a natural man to a spiritual man. Are you getting it? Are we saying something here? Okay. Something has to happen. We as human beings, we see ourselves as good people who do bad things. But that's not how Jesus Christ sees us. Are you getting me? Jesus Christ says, even if you who are evil know how to do good. Jesus Christ doesn't see human beings as good people. No. He says you are evil, but you know how to do good things. Evil people know how to do good things. That's how Jesus Christ sees us. That's the view of God about human beings. Something has happened to man, and man has never become the same again. So man is not a good person who does bad things. It's a bad person who does good things. And until a man becomes born again, when you become born again, something happens to your spirit, but it doesn't end there. Something has to happen to your soul. And so far as you exist in this body or this flesh you are seeing here, says like Paul said, I want to do the things I want to do. You can be above it, but you cannot be over it. I guess what I'm trying to say. You can be the head imam or pastor or reverend. If you're a man, you still have male sexuality. You can be above it, but you can never be over it. But one day, Jesus Christ is coming back again. Like the book of 1 Corinthians tells us, He says, we are saved. We are being saved and we will be saved. Our spirits have been saved. Something has happened to your spirit. Your soul is being saved. And your body is going to be saved. That's why on that day, when the trumpet calls and the trumpet sounds, something is going to happen to your body. You're going to have a new body, which is free from corruption. That body is not the body now that you are having here that is arousable. That is lustful. That is lazy. You have to wake up at 6 o'clock and I'm tired. Let me sleep small. There's a limitation there. And that's not going to be saved until that day. See, until that day, man is above, but man is not over. So, apart from the general nature of man that I was talking about the natural man, which is about a man being greedy, envious, selfish, which is in all of us. We're all cut from the same cloth. Simply put, in the proverbial way. We are prone to that. If I ask how many of us are envious, nobody raise their hand. Because we don't want to be. But we know in our secret place, in the depths of our hearts, that sometimes when our friends are doing well, we just look at the common making a double hand like, you are thinking something, but you have to control it. That is when now you can say that you are perfecting in character. We have that tendency. That's the natural man. To be selfish. You don't even start sharing it. You're even looking at the one that you pick. He's a natural man. You can see a lot about a man based on this small. You don't have to talk. No, just be looking at people. You just see a lot about them. That's their level of character. If you look at those small things, you can tell a lot about a person's character. The natural man. How natural are you? Are you being led by the Spirit of a living God? Are you a spiritual man? So, apart from the general one, we have certain specific things that happen to man. That's the nature of the natural man, as in man. No. In this case, we are coming about the natural male here. Ego, dominance, and a very strong sex drive and the need for variety, etc. That's typical male nature. I don't know if we can talk about this. We don't have time. Then the female also has certain traits that are typical of a female or a woman. That's her presentation, how she's seen is very, very important to her. Because of that, she's very, very much afraid of shame. The kind of things that young men can do, we don't fear shame. So I'm not saying we don't fear shame at all, but shame is not our worst thing. Boys, intercourse. The way boys say, girls they don't want to. They want to present themselves in a particular image. They don't. Their need for security, their need for solipsism, and their hypergamy. We'll talk about those things as we move on. That's the natural woman speaking here. Something happened to the nature of man and woman. Biblical examples like the story of Samson and Delilah, where Samson was a typical man in this case, and Delilah was a typical woman playing out. Judah and Tamar. Do you know the story of Judah and Tamar? Why did Tamar do what she did? Security. She didn't have a child, and she wanted to have a child. And because of that, she was moved to do whatever she had to do to get what she wanted. The story of David and Bathsheba, the story of Sarah. We can talk about those things today. But men and women are different. Like I said from the beginning. We have the physical differences. You know the physical differences. Some of them are very, very obvious, but some are not so obvious. We are different. Physically. Just looking at someone from afar, you can say, oh, this is a guy coming, or this is a lady coming. From our facial features, certain prominence in our facial features, to even the way our hair grows, to our skin. When you see a young woman in a youthful age, in their teens, in their 20s, their skin is just extra. Oh, not like a man's. We have beard. Women don't grow beard. Our body shapes are different, and all those things are for specific reasons. The shape of a woman is different from the shape of a man for specific, particular reasons, and they are all important. They fit into certain functions. A man is built to have a certain kind of shoulder, muscle tone, in order for a man to be able to push and pull, do heavy work. A woman is built with a wider hip for childbirth and also for carrying load. The kind of load that a woman can carry on her head, a man will find it difficult to carry. But that's how God created us, so they can be complementary. So some of the roles that we have as genders, it's not maybe because we want to worry someone. God created us in a specific way so that we can complement each other. But here, feeding it, willing it, telling it. You see what I'm talking about? That's how God created us. Our blood is different. The number of red blood cells that a man has is higher than the man's bones are more stronger because of the purpose that man's bones were created for. We are different. But our differences do not end only in our physical appearances. We are also different even in the psychological and social spheres. I cannot talk about these things. So these are some of the socio-psychological. I'm coming. Let me see if I can come back here. Okay. Right from the beginning of time, Satan has always had an agenda. Apart from the fact that man and woman fell, who caused it? To the serpent. But he has not finished his job yet. When man and woman fell, God didn't give up on man and woman. But God was still for man and woman. Or man, humanity. And God was giving humanity a chance again and again. So God gave humanity Jesus Christ. And Satan is not happy about it. He keeps on trying again and again and again and again to get into God's original plan or God's original order. When God says A, Satan wants to say negative A. That's Satan's whole purpose. Whatever God wants to do, he tries to do the direct opposite of it. And that's what he has been trying to do from generation to generation. And Satan doesn't just come straight with one thing, no. He always tricks you or seduces you into doing what he wants you to do. I don't know if you get where I'm coming from. Satan will seduce you into doing what he wants you to do. So how does he do that? We'll talk a little about seduction today. He has to convince you. To seduce means to convince, to persuade, to entice. So he will not come directly to you. He has to use an indirect approach so that you don't know that he's the one who is doing it. So Satan will place one carpet. You say that he wants to get to the roof. But will place one carpet, second carpet, third carpet. Then you realize you're at the roof. You don't know what happened. Because no matter how slim a carpet is, if you place one over the other, a lot of them, it will reach the roof. So Satan started from unisex. He wanted to enter into this homosexuality and all those things. So he started from unisex, where he said male and female, oh, they can all wear the same thing. And it doesn't sound very strange. Oh, it's nothing. It's unisex, just fashion. But if you're able to accept unisex, then you're not ready for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersexual, or whatever. There was a time in our world, about maybe 20, 30 years ago that you talk about homosexuality, nobody will even listen to. What are you talking about? People are very, very emotional. But now, no. Let them do what they want to do. They have different words that they use. That's how seduction works. So they'll give you a title, homophobic, or whatever word it is, and you just shut up because you don't want to be labeled as something. That's how Satan works. He just gives you a group name and puts it in a way that it's a very shameful way to put you. Then you cannot talk again. That's the world we find ourselves in. Then feminism, gender identity fluidity, the feminization of men and the masculinization of women. Then we have other things too, like certain movements. So, what Satan wants to do is that he wants to disrupt even further the relationship between men and women. Like I told you, when we read from the beginning, Genesis chapter 1 verse 20, we realized something. It says, male and female, he created them. And like I told you, it was poetry. God was very, very, very emotional and particular, and it meant something to God. And that's what Satan wants to attack in our present world. He's attacking male and female. He created them. He's going to do anything possible to attack it. So women are forming their feminist groups. Men are also forming their masculinist groups, like the MGTOW movement, the incels, the MRAs. There are so many groups like that. And all of them are going contrary to the original purpose of God. There's a battleship. So men and women, or male and female, that God created to complement each other, to understand each other, to work together for the perfect agenda of God, are now fighting each other. And Satan is even going further from there to now feminizing men, making men become like women. I'm not talking about lesbian, gay, transgender, or intergender. I'm talking about making men become like women. Men are becoming very, very weak, and women are becoming very, very, very strong. Women are more bolder, more outspoken. The men are just shut up. They don't want to talk. They are afraid to even talk. Men cannot stand again and be men. And to be a man is a shameful thing in this our current world. And women are encouraged not to be women, but to be men. That is Satan's perfect agenda. Male and female, he created them when he hears that, it was just an no. So that is how he's attacking. And we, even the Christian church, are embracing it blindly. We don't see what is happening. The church that is supposed to stand up for the things, we don't even know what is happening. We don't see what is happening. But Satan is fighting. And he's fighting really, 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 really hard. Our time is far gone. I would have loved to talk about some of the things that I skipped. For instance, there's social, psychological differences between men and women. I had to pick some of them to talk about, but unfortunately, maybe when we get towards the end and we can fill in with that, we'll do that. But for now, we'll manage with this now. So in conclusion, I think the very last slide is the thing that I want to concentrate on. This is the current state of the world that we find ourselves in. And all of us, in our own way, be it small or big, are contributing to it. We are supporting Satan's agenda. We don't see there's anything wrong with it. Because when Satan brings something, he dresses it very well and presents it in a way that is appealing and makes it feel as if you are supporting a great cause. But it's all an attack on male and female. He created them. We are trying to tell God, even as Christians, that he doesn't know what it's about. But we don't even realize we are doing that. We don't realize what we are doing. We don't. As we move on, we'll talk about other things. We'll get a clearer picture of what we're talking about. And then at the end of the day, I'm sure that we can come back to some of these few things. Thank you, and God bless you. I wasn't supposed to give this talk, but I just had to prepare the slides yesterday. So if for one reason or the other, but I'm sure that at least we get something. God bless you.